You're listening to VCY America Worldwide, KVCX Gregory, and WVIW Bridgeport.
Titus Kennedy is an experienced archaeologist, has authored 3 books on archaeological evidence of the Bible, and has been interviewed on VCY's radio program Crosstalk. And his brand new book, Archaeology and the People of the Bible, is offered this month at 50% off at the VCY Bookstore and Outreach Center. In this book, there are over 130 people from the Old and New Testaments and includes more than 200 photos and illustrations. This book is a comprehensive and up-to-date resource on discoveries that demonstrate the existence of figures who appear in the Bible. Archaeology and the People of the Bible, the brand new book by Titus Kennedy, is 50% off through the end of February, only at the VCY Bookstore and Outreach Center. Order by calling 888-722-4829. Available 10 to 6 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday. Or visit anytime online at vcy.com.
When I was transferred, they asked if I wanted an abortion. Already at 16 weeks, baby's like the size of an apple, very big. I was just appalled.
Welcome to Straight Talk on Life Issues. I'm Victor Nieves, president of Life Issues Institute. Today we're going to talk about conjoined twins, a very rare condition. Experts estimate only happens about 1 in 100,000 pregnancies and even fewer in live births. Conjoined twins happen when an identical twin embryo doesn't fully split after fertilization. This creates twins that are physically connected to each other. Some conjoined twins can have a separation surgery, some survive, and unfortunately some do not. Others remain connected for the rest of their lives. Today we're going to talk to Nicole LeBlanc, who chose life for her twins, whose brief life leaves a giant mark on their parents' heart. Nicole recently began her public speaking and pro-life advocacy all over the state of Michigan, sharing the testimony of herself and her daughters. She hopes that by sharing her story, she can be easily accessible to those mothers and families who face a terminal diagnosis for their babies in the womb and help change minds and hearts for life. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
For those who may not know you, I think it's important we start off with your story because you have an incredible story as we speak about this topic. Share with us your experience.
Yes, back in 2022, I found out that I was pregnant for the very first time. And a few weeks go by and I found out I was having conjoined twins who had no chance of separation and that shared major internal organs such as the heart, liver, diaphragm, and there was no way to separate them.
And, so I saw you shared your story on social media, and it's a profound story. I encourage people to follow you elsewhere. But I saw there was a negative reaction by some people when they share your story because it doesn't stop there. I mean, you carried your babies and you gave them life. You made a choice that some people don't understand. Take us through that part.
Yes, even still to this day, I post on social media, and every day I wake up to a bunch of negative comments saying that I tortured my babies for letting them form that way, or the more merciful option would have just been to abort them before things progressed, before they grew more. So just things like that. People would DM me, wishing me infertility, saying I should never become a mother. I hope my other children die. So very, very negative comments, things that would definitely discourage a lot of people, a lot of women in my circumstance from sharing things like this.
And quickly, how do you handle that? That's something that most people don't deal with ever in their life. That's a tremendous amount of hate and pressure, but you keep going and you keep sharing your story.
I do, because my mentality is if I can even just save one baby by just sharing my story, then this is all worth it. I don't care about all the negative comments. Being a Christian, Catholic, we know that Jesus endured so much for us, for the salvation of the world. I just get some mean comments and so be it.
And so take us back to the moment when you first found out. I believe you were at the ultrasound tech and they were telling you, okay, we see that there are 2 heads, but we're only seeing, 4 limbs. Come back again and we'll see. What was your mindset in that moment when you're starting to think, okay, there's a possibility that this is a unique circumstance?
Yeah, well, it was from that very first ultrasound at 7 weeks, just the confirmation ultrasound. Even the doctor did the ultrasound and she had no idea. She's like, well, just come back in a few weeks. And I ended up going to the ER for abdominal pain. So it was in the ER that the technician, she did the scan, and I wasn't with my husband. He was still in the other room. And she was just silent for 30 minutes. And I'm like, this is not going to be good. So she ran out the room. She grabbed my husband. She ran back in. She's like, well, you need to take some pictures because I've never seen anything like this. But you are pregnant with twins, but they're conjoined and they share a heart and a liver. That's all she could see at the time. And that was around 10 weeks gestation. My husband had no idea what conjoined meant. He just heard twins and he's like, oh, yeah, that's awesome. And I'm like, honey, no, they're going to die. There's no way. I have a medical background. I was studying pre-med at the time. So I knew there's no way that one heart can sustain two people. I knew that it was just not going to happen, but I didn't know what would happen. The doctors came in later on and said, well, this could end in a miscarriage, most likely, most probable miscarriage, or the off chance that they could progress a little more, but they could be stillborn, or the very rare chance that they could be delivered via C-section and live for hours, minutes even, or maybe a couple of days.
And so at any point in this process, did they try to influence you in the direction of aborting your children?
Absolutely. And I went to a Christian hospital for the sole purpose of just having, I wanted to have a natural delivery. I wanted to have a home birth. I didn't want any intervention at all. And this completely was out of left field for us. So even at this Christian hospital, I had 3 rounds of doctors come in and tell me, we can't do anything here, but we can certainly transfer you or they can take care of the situation. And my husband and I were like, take care of the situation? You mean an abortion, right? Like just to get rid of the babies and who are clearly alive on the ultrasound screen.
So what was your reaction in those moments when they came to you and very clearly suggested that you kill your children? What did y'all say to them?
I was confused because this was my first pregnancy. So honestly, I was just really confused why they were saying take care of the situation and then abortion. I had just processed all of this information, found out I had twins, and then they have this condition. And then what's next? They wanted me to make this decision within like a few hours. So I was really confused. And as a mom, it's like, well, are they in any pain or like what's going on? But I was always pro-life from when I was a baby, when I was younger. I have an older sister. I have 2 younger sisters. I was always in the pro-life clubs in high school and college. And so now to actually have a situation where that is being tested, it's like, what do you do in that situation? Then they were also saying that my life was in danger if I don't have the abortion. And that's when my husband and I were like, well, how is this any different than a regular twin pregnancy? They said, well, your side could rip open if things progress and you need a C-section. During the surgery, delivering 2 babies at once, your side could rip open, you could lose blood, loss of life, etc. So my husband and I were like, you know what, let's just put our trust in God. We said a prayer in the hospital and said, Lord, I am your humble and faithful servant. You do with me whatever your will is. And that was our decision.
Do you think that they were trying to coerce you or scare you? I mean, with this being your first pregnancy and they start listing off all of these concerns, we've heard so many stories of children who receive a negative prognosis in the womb. And this seems to be a common theme where you have a mother who comes in, maybe it's her first pregnancy. She's trying to figure out what's going on. She's been delivered information she never expected. This is a lot being dropped on her in a very short period of time. You mentioned it was like they wanted you to make that decision right then and there. They wanted you to give them an answer, yes or no. And we're talking about life or death stakes. And then they start mentioning, oh, well, this could be dangerous in this way, or this could be dangerous. They don't tell a pregnant mother that when they don't want them to abort their child. They talk about all the good things and they talk about the blessing of having a child. Every child, everybody knows every pregnancy comes with certain risks, but boy, do they love to lean into those risks. As soon as they want you to have an abortion, they'll list every negative thing that could ever happen as a result of pregnancy. Did it ever feel like you were being maybe even coerced, pressured in a direction while you're still trying to wrap your head around what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that it was also one doctor, she came in 3 times on top of the other 2 doctors that came in and told me everything. This lady, she came in 3 times. And my husband and I think at the last time, we're like, can you please leave? Because this is just, we've already kind of made our decision. And the fact is that a lot of the pro-choice conversation stems around, oh, well, it's a choice that you made. This is, a decision to make. Well, a decision is made when you decide to be intimate with your spouse or whatnot. That is when the decision is made. After that, there's always a chance that you could get pregnant. There's, depending on the time of the month or whatnot. But yeah, that's not a choice that I carry these babies. I was pregnant, and the next decision was how well can I care for these babies?
So you continue us down through the story. You reject the coercion and the pressure to abort your child. You choose life. Walk us through the rest of the pregnancy.
Well, at that hospital, they said, well, we can no longer take care of you because this is too high risk for us. So we're going to transfer you to the major hospital, the University of Michigan, because they have the resources to handle a high risk case because I was now deemed high risk. So I was transferred over. They did another ultrasound when I got there around 15 to 16 weeks. And I had very bad morning sickness, especially with twins. And I found out that they were two little girls. So it was really intense morning sickness. I lost a lot of weight. And so, yeah, I was transferred. They did an ultrasound. And again, when I was transferred, they asked if I wanted an abortion. Already at 16 weeks, babies, like the size of an apple, very big babies. I could see their heads, they're jumping in unison. And I was just appalled. But they only asked the one time. And she's like, okay, so you don't want an abortion? I said, no. She's like, all right, well, I can see these babies making it all the way to 35 weeks. And that was like the best news I could have received. She's like, their heart is really malformed. They share a lot of organs, but it's forming normally. Like there's not that many malformations in the organs themselves. And the heart rate is completely normal. So I don't see why they couldn't make 35 weeks with an ultrasound. So I was really happy to hear that, but the prognosis was still the same. They could live minutes, hours, or days.
And so then you made it, I presume, to the 35 weeks and you had a C-section, right?
I made it all the way to 32 weeks. So since this was a high-risk pregnancy and their heart, it was pretty malformed, but it was okay to sustain them in the womb. So I had appointments every 2 weeks. We saw the girls all the way from 7 weeks, 10 weeks, 13, I think like 15, and then 16 every 2 weeks. So I saw them progress from like this tiny little bean up into these big girls. And it was middle of May, and we already had the date for the C-section in the early June. And it was just a regular routine checkup in May. And they did the ultrasound, and they were there a little bit longer than usual. And they come back in, and there's 3 doctors this time that came in. They're like, we need to move up the date for the C-section because their heart is starting to fail. And my husband and I were like, well, we thought we had more time. And they're like, no, we need to, if you want them to be born alive, it would have to be, that appointment was a Friday. The C-section was on a Tuesday. So we had to have all the preparations ready. And so they were delivered, they were born alive on May 16th, 2023, and they lived for an hour.
Wow. And what I want people to know when they hear this story is that your daughters were loved every second they were on this earth. There was never a time where they were not loved. There was never a time where they knew anything but care from their mother and their father. And so, albeit their short life, it was full of love. And there's something profound about that I want everybody to understand. You know, when we hear these stories, which we've heard, yours is very unique, obviously, but we've heard themes that are repeated many times where it's a negative prognosis in the womb. And it's presented as though the solution or the answer is to preemptively kill a child. People need to think about how crazy that is.
Mm-hmm.
Never at any point in proper medical care should the answer to a negative prognosis be, oh, let's preemptively kill them. That doesn't make any sense. And so your children, they got, both of them, they got to know and love their mother. They got to experience being loved by a mother and a father for every minute that they were on this earth, rather than being aborted. And I won't get into the brutal nature of what an abortion would have looked like at 17 weeks when they were suggesting that you go through that process. It would have been barbaric. What a barbaric way to have your life ended. And so I have so much respect for you and for your husband to have chose life and to be so dedicated to honoring the sanctity of your daughters. And it's a blessing to know that they got to experience nothing in this life with the exception of love. They got to know love in probably its purest of form to see that. So how was your community around you, your friends, your family, maybe your church community? What was it like as you went through this process? You delivered your daughters. What was the structure around you? Was it helpful to have that, or maybe did you have it at all?
Well, my family, everyone was very pro-life, from my grandparents, my cousins. Everyone was just so supportive of me, and even friends from high school that I haven't talked to in years. They gave me like little prayer cards. Like, it was just so beautiful to see people that I haven't even talked to in a while. They were really concerned about me and sent me messages, and so it was nice to see that. And when I first found out that I was expecting, I posted it on X, and I had no idea that it would blow up the way that it did. I had a couple of friends from high school on my X, and it just blew up. People were like, oh my gosh, like send me recommendations. I've never heard of this before. People like to play doctor on social media, and they're like, oh, can you do this? Can you contact Ben Carson? Can you do this? And it was just a lot of explaining because people had no idea what conjoined twins were. They had never heard of it before because it's so rare. I believe it's like 1 in 300,000 live births, I believe. And the more organs they share, the more rare it is. But it always happens to girls. It's more girls that are conjoined. So even I was learning a lot of things. I found organizations that assisted Catholic or Christian parents that have a bad diagnosis in the womb. And so this organization is called Able Speaks, and they send out care packages even for their birthdays. Girls would have been 3 now this May. Every single birthday we get something, or on Mother's Day, Father's Day. So it's so beautiful to know that there's organizations dedicated to something like this, because it does happen, unfortunately. So I found other mothers of conjoined twins, and yeah, my church community was wonderful. We had a priest that was present in the operating room as well, ready to baptize them. And so, yeah, it was just incredible, the amount of support that we had received.
That's amazing. And we'll have a link to that to the listener. We'll have a link to some of those resources on our website, lifeissues.org, so that you can share these. If you know anybody in your life who might benefit from these resources, we would love to provide those to you. Nicole, it sounds like you actually created a pretty incredible network around you of people to come and love on you. You mentioned the post on social media and, everybody wants to play doctor. Was there a community that was created on social media that kind of followed you through this journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had like a couple hundred followers, and I mean, not that I care because I just post about my life. Not that I talk about like a certain topic like grief, or like, because I don't really want to be known as the sad mom who lost her kids either. Like, I know that the girls would want me to be happy, so I just post about things. I think that's up to over 6,000 followers now. Just people that are still invested in how I'm doing. I have a daughter now; she's 10 months old, so people want to know how she's doing, and so it's really nice to see that people care. But yeah, I don't really try to make it a focus of posting too much, just random things that happen in my life.
And through your experience and through this community, have you been able to help other parents who maybe they don't have the same situation, but they might be kind of in similar shoes? Have you ever had that chance?
Oh, yeah. On my Instagram, I would post a few things, and I've had several mothers now who have contacted me asking, oh, what do I do? Or I know someone who's going through something. What can I get them? Is there something like I can do for them? So it was nice to help them, because I know the other mothers would really appreciate the support. Like, even if it's for praying for them or giving them a meal or like a little bracelet or something, just something to know that their baby is acknowledged and loved. Because this is the hardest thing I had ever gone through in my life, and probably will be the hardest thing. Losing a baby, especially 2, it was very difficult. No one really knew how to help me at that time, and people just had to learn. Like, my husband and I are the only ones. We leaned on each other a lot. My husband has been a great support for me. So just having his support, my family, that's what's so important.
On that note, obviously it's such a unique circumstance. Everybody's going to be different. So there is no one size fits all to this. But to church communities, to pastors, to friends and family members, what's one piece of advice that you would have for them to walk with somebody through a situation like this?
Yeah, just I would say don't forget about the grieving mothers, because I am going to be grieving the rest of my life. I'm going to be wondering the what ifs. And I know it's not good to dwell in that, but it's my reality. I have pictures of my girls that I can see on my wall. So especially for leaders, pastors, priests, whatnot, it's important to talk about the members of our family that are no longer here. I lost my dad when I was 15. He had cancer. So I will always miss him. I always wonder the adult conversations I would have had with him and how he could have helped me in this situation. And it's good for them to, let us know that our grief is valid. Everything that we're feeling is completely validated, especially looking at Christ and the church and the Holy Family. We all going to go through grief. We're all going to go through incredible loss, but how can we focus that into something good, and instead of just wallowing in self-pity and, oh, this happened to me, this is so tragic, and just negative, depressive thoughts. It's how can we come on the other side and be a support for others who will eventually go through something like this.
Well, one of the things, Nicole, that stands out so much about your story is not only the attention that you've had in a positive way. I love that part of it, that you've created this community and you've been able to help people. But I go back to the fact that there are these people who just hate you. I mean, vehemently hate you. And it doesn't make any sense to me because we've heard your whole story and it's a tear jerking story of somebody who loved deeply their children. And so as I listen to this, I can't think of one reason that anyone would be upset about what you did. They should honor it. They should celebrate what you did. They should be very grateful. That's like the truest expression of a mother's love is to do exactly what you did. What about your story do you think it is that makes people mad at you that a mother chose life for her daughters?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. People hate me for sure. I get notifications every day about it. And I posted this video months ago. So it's like, I think that the biggest theme here is that I was torturing them by letting them survive as long as they did. And I did make it a point to ask the doctors when I got transferred at 16 weeks. I asked them, are they in any pain? Because I mean, I'm curious. I'm their mom. Like, is there something that I can do? Like, should I rest? Like, I didn't know. And the doctor said, well, they have some scoliosis just because of how, so they were facing each other, just how their backs were kind of forming. They weren't able to like turn or move how a normal baby is so active in the womb. But she's like, no, they're not in any great pain. Maybe they're uncomfortable because they're scoliosis, but no, not in any pain. And so I said that. So I made it a point in my videos explaining, they weren't in any pain. And a lot of people just don't listen. They don't want to listen. They're like, oh no, they were in pain. They were conjoined. Of course they're going to feel pain. Of course the doctors are going to lie to you and say X, Y, and Z to get you to feel comfortable. But I'm like, these are the same doctors that also offered to abort my kids. So
Yeah, it's the
like,
exact opposite. These are the doctors that tried to get you to kill your children. They're not going to be, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is they were tortured, and people don't understand that because there are conjoined twins and about in life that are living their lives that are celebrities kind of. And yeah, they might be in pain, but aren't we all? Like to some
Yep.
extent, we all have
Yep.
some sort of chronic thing. We get sick from
That's
time to
life.
time. Like,
Life is occasional pain and discomfort. It
yeah.
doesn't mean we get to kill people.
No. Yeah, I completely agree.
So I should have asked this sooner, Nicole. Did you name your daughters?
I did. As soon as I found out back at that 10-week appointment that I found out that they were conjoined twins, my biggest thing was making memories with them. So I made a whole bunch of memories while I was pregnant for those 8 months. And I wanted to name them. So they said, oh, this is baby A, who's on your right side, and baby B on your left. So baby A is Maria Therese, and baby B is Rachel Claire.
That's wonderful. What's something that you wish that the average person understood about conjoined twins?
I don't think anyone has asked me that before. The fact that they're so vulnerable, and I think that's why we were targeted so easily because it's so rare. People have never seen them. I've never seen conjoined twins before until I saw my girls. So yeah, knowing that I was carrying babies with a disability, if they were forming a different way but still conjoined, they would have had massive disability issues. I would have been a completely different life. So I see other people, maybe not with the same circumstances, but with disabilities, and they were just normal girls. They didn't have any other issues besides that they were attached to each other. So just having a major respect for people that have disabilities or issues that they were born with and they can't control because they're still human and they still deserve love and respect.
And Nicole, one final question for you. We appreciate everything that you've shared so far. What's a word of encouragement that you would have to a mother who's in your same shoes? She has that same scary moment at an ultrasound where they start dumping all this information on her. Maybe they're trying to get that high pressure situation and they want their answer right now and they're suggesting abortion. What's your advice to that mother?
Never lose hope. Never lose hope. Even in the darkest moments, you will laugh again. You will cry again. You will be singing and dancing again. I promise you will. Never knew that even in my saddest time when I lost the girls, I couldn't even listen to music. I couldn't watch movies. I couldn't do anything. But not only does time heal wounds, but God heals all wounds. So if you offer up your life every single morning to Him, Lord, here's my day, here's my life, take it. That's when you'll actually start to feel a little bit more free. The grief never goes away, but you learn to deal with the grief. Not that it diminishes, but everything else around you, you learn how to go about your day knowing that you will see your babies one day.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Hearing Nicole's story and seeing that there's so many themes that we've heard many times, obviously the story of her and her daughters is very unique, very, very unique. But the way that the medical industry tried to pressure her into killing her children, that is not unique. We have seen that story on repeat so many times where a scared mother and father who are getting a prognosis for the first time, they don't know what it even means. They're not quite sure what's happening. They immediately have this pressure to kill their children. And I can't get over the crazy logic, if you can even call it logic, of saying that your child might not survive or your child won't live very long. So let's preemptively and barbarically kill your child. Nicole's daughters only ever knew love. They only ever knew the embrace and protection of their mother and their father. For as long as they were on this earth, they were truly loved in the deepest possible way, rather than having their lives cut short. An already short life cut short by the very ones that were supposed to be protecting them. Nicole's daughters knew love instead of abortion. They knew love instead of harm, intentional harm against them. And Nicole's story, her husband's story, the story of her daughters, is an inspiration to everybody out there. No matter what you may be told, there's always a way to honor and respect life. And I have so much respect for her and for her husband and the way that they handled this. And I just know that those babies loved their mother in the same way that their mother loved them. And this has been just truly a blessing for myself, a tear-jerking conversation, but one that's very important. I want to encourage you to visit our website, lifeissues.org, where you can find free resources and information that we've put together so that you can help people choose life, even in the face of a negative prognosis. Again, that's available on our website, lifeissues.org. Be sure to tune in next week for another Straight Talk on Life Issues.
With SRN News, I'm Mary Rose. 5 European countries say they now know how Russian opposition
speech on
in February 2024 with toxin derived from the skin of poisoned dart frogs. His widow, Yulia Navalnaya.
Now, it's not just words. It's scientific proof that my husband, Alexei Navalny, was poisoned.
Audio courtesy of Sky. At the time, Navalny was serving a 19-year sentence at an Arctic penal colony, a sentence believed to have been politically motivated. I'm Donna Warder.
A key measure of inflation fell to nearly a 5-year low last month.
The cost of goods and services didn't rise as fast in January as they did a year ago. Overall inflation dropped to 2.4%, not too far from the Federal Reserve's 2% target. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports gas prices fell more than 3% last month, while grocery prices ticked higher.
Correspondent Greg Clugston. The U.S. economy seems to be humming along. The latest government stats report that in January, average wages rose about 4%, while consumer prices rose 2%. Economist Steve Moore with the Unleash Prosperity Hotline says that means real wages rose in January, following the trend throughout 2025. Moore stresses that for most Americans, affordability is rising, not falling. The average American's weekly paycheck now buys about 2% more than it did when President Trump was inaugurated. This is SRN News. A call for action against China.
The communist government in Beijing persecutes Christians within its borders, but it doesn't stop there. The Congressional Executive Committee on China is urging Congress and the president to do something about China's campaigns against Chinese Christians living here in the U.S. The committee says China uses verbal and online harassment to silence believers in this country and sometimes even resorts to physical intimidation by communist agents. Michael Harrington reporting.
International Christian Concern says there's a war against the Bible going on all around the globe. Simply owning a copy of the scriptures can result in capital punishment in North Korea, Yemen, and Afghanistan. In countries such as Somalia and Mauritania, Bibles cannot be printed, translated, sold, or imported. Iranian authorities have forbidden the translation of the scriptures into Farsi, the language most Iranians speak. This is SRN News. Law enforcement investigating the disappearance of today's show host Savannah Guthrie's mother sealed off a road near Nancy Guthrie's home in Arizona late Friday night. More from correspondent Ken Lorman.
A parade of sheriffs and FBI vehicles, including forensic vehicles, passed through the roadblock that was set up about 2 miles from the house. The county sheriff's department said the activity was part of the Guthrie case, but it said further information was unavailable since it was a joint investigation with the FBI.
The 84-year-old Guthrie was reported missing on February 1st. Authorities have expressed concerns Guthrie's health because she needs daily medication. She is said to have a pacemaker and has dealt with high blood pressure and heart issues, according to Sheriff's Dispatcher audio on Broadcastify.com. This is SRN News.
John 10, verse 9. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out, and find pasture. God's Word, the Bible, setting forth Christ Jesus as the way to life in John 10, verse 9.
Do you toss in bed rehearsing the cares of the day? Listen to Music Till Dawn, featuring sacred music and devotional thoughts all night long. That's right here on VCY America.
Power button. Screen mirroring. Screen mirroring button. Music haptic. Selected. Lock rotation. Selected. Screen recording.